Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Duke and I'm Duke of Italy, and welcome back to another music review. And I know I said I was on a bit of an uphill climb with the Miranda Cosgrove review, but we are back to terrible music temporarily. Next week it's gonna be good stuff, I promise. It's literally planned good stuff. So today we are covering Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, the discography. Now, who is this Christian? Who are the Hedgehog Boys? Now, Christian is referring to Christian Weston Chandler, aka Chris Chan, inventor of the Sonichu comics. Now, this is a pretty influential scene on the internet since around the early 2000s. Chris Chan was known for being trolled relentlessly on Twitter since 2007 when he uploaded a video basically saying that homosexuality was wrong, saying that guys should play with My Little Ponies, girls should play with Transformers. I could go on and on about that video, but it's better if you watch it. It's been re-uploaded a few times. I will be referring to Chris's oldest stuff, so I'm not going to be mentioning anything now, like his pepper spray at GameStop incident. This is just the discography and what he said about music that I'm covering today. So what Chris makes, calling it music is a little generous, I'd say. Not like avant-garde as generous as calling it music. It's the fact that he will play a live recording of a song, maybe a studio recording, but normally a live recording, sing over it with new or maybe not even new lyrics, consider it his own song, and then put it in an album with no feasibility as to what comes first, second, or last, and no form of structure, no theme, unless the theme is uber consistency, and by consistency I mean repetition till death, which you'll see in his second album. So other characteristics of Chris Chan's style is that he has a deadpan voice, like Lou Reed. He has completely nonsensical vocals, weak flow when he raps for a song, weird lyrics that don't particularly make any sense, and a misunderstanding of music as a concept, such as the time he considered himself a baritone, when one, he doesn't even sing notes, he's kind of constantly off key. Well, and like even what he does sing aren't even really notes in the first place. But that's enough about me rambling about the man. Let's look at his first album, the self-titled Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, recorded in 2003. So this is a self-released album. No producer in their right mind would release this. And it starts off with the track So Need a Cute Girl. Now this track is iconic. If you've seen Chris Chan sing, you've probably seen him sing this song. He plays I Want It That Way in the background, and then he sings over it with his lyrics about how he wants a girl to be boyfriend free, and it involves with his love quest. That's the whole thing that he was talking about. So you hear this song and you pretty much understand how every track is going to go. His lyrics are nonsensical. The notes are not there. It's just kind of mindless. Yeah, this track is a bad opener also, just in terms of album structure. It's not the most hype song. Here's a song, actually the next song would work way better, but for some reason he chose this. Anyway, so yeah, it's bad. Next track is called Sonichu Zip. It's a sample of Sonichu Drive. I say sample, it's really just the whole song. So, and it has all the same issues as before, except now the sample is bad, and Chris Chan he's drowned out. You can't hear his voice, and so it's another awful track. Every track on here is awful, by the way. Like, I don't even need to tell you that, you already know it. The next track is AUTISM, or Autism. It's a sample of Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys. Subjectively, this is my favorite Chris Chan song. It's super fun to listen to. It's also one of the worst things I've ever heard. Yeah, he misses the mark 90% of the time when he's trying to hit a note on this song, but I guess objectively, he like, every once in a while, he'll get the right note. There's a line in the song that says, looking at the crowd and I see your body sway. Instead, Chris says, looking at the crowd and I see a rainbow, which I don't even know what that is meant to mean. Did Chris Chan make a biblical reference in his music? He's just Leonard Cohen. There's also 20 seconds of just him not singing for some reason. The next track is BFFs, or Best Friends Forever. It samples If Only Tears Could Bring You Back. It's really nothing new, same issues as before. It feels completely placeless, whatever. It also describes a best friend as a black Sonichu. If you can tell me what that means, go ahead. I'm not that well versed in the Sonichu lore to understand how that works. Next track is probably my favorite to rag on. It's La Cocina and La Casa de Casanova, which I don't know why Chris came up with that title. It doesn't relate to what's going on. It's a sample of La Copa de la Vida, which was a popular song in the 90s. If you heard it, you'll recognize it instantly, which is a common theme among this whole album. Every song is sampled from something popular in the early 2000s or late 90s. All I have to say about the song is that the Spanish is Spanish 1 level, and it reaches abrasion at this point. Next track samples the Macarena. It's called Yellow is a Mellow Color. Maybe it's because it's difficult to say fast, and that's why he says it. But first of all, yellow's not even a mellow color. It's literally bright. It's exciting. I think of lightning as either like a light blue or yellow. So I don't know what he's saying there. Also, Sonichu is yellow, and he's not mellow. So whatever. Yeah, that's the most just sort of what song. The next song is called Feel So Lonesome. It's a sample of You Drive Me Crazy by Britney Spears. And the hook that says crazy, instead he says lonesome. I will never understand how instead of saying lonely or anything else really, he says lonesome. I don't think a single person in the past 25 years says lonesome unironically other than Chris Chan. Not much to say about this track, except there's a point where he says he'll break his arm. It's your life, buddy. To round off the album, we got the Christian and the Hedgehog Boys theme song. It's a sample of a track called Open Your Heart, which isn't a ballad, it's actually a rock song. So it's an interesting way to end. This last track, please forgive me for this. It really reminds me of They're Red Hot by the Red Hot Chili Peppers off of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It's the last track on the album. Not that they're in any way comparable, other than the fact that it's like a sort of a quick jammy rock tune to end it off. But you know how Chris Chan's using it. He's singing over it with inaudible lyrics. So yeah, this album's terrible. It's really, really awful. One of the worst things I ever heard. So this was the only release from Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, but they got another album I'm going to talk about in a sec. Now this album, it's pretty inoffensive. It's not like aggressively in your face terrible, but it's certainly not good. It's all the elements to make a terrible album. But this next album gets actually destructive. So this next album is called Comeback. It was leaked in 2009. Not really sure why it's called Comeback. There are plenty of comeback albums in the past that aren't called Comeback. You know, you got the latest Pink Floyd, 13 Black Sabbath, just for examples. Doesn't really make any sense to call it a comeback after a 6-year gap. It's just like Daughters when they said you won't get what you want, except now I am not getting what I want. So before I talk about this, I want to mention a quote that Christian said one time about heavy metal music. He said that it lacks a beat or a tune and that the lyrics are, I think, incomprehensive or something like that. Now, first of all, he's making a pretty common mistake among sort of casual music listeners to confuse heavy metal with extreme metal. Now, extreme metal, you get your black metal, some folk metal, some death metal, grindcore, etc. But heavy metal, you got like some thrash, normally like the lighter side, you know, like Metallica. But then you got mainly like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, for example. And their lyrics are totally comprehensible. You can hear every single one. So first of all, heavy metal is super easy to comprehend. Maybe not the meaning, which makes it better music if they make a super smart song like that. But I can understand if you say extreme metal is incomprehensible in terms of lyrics, especially a group like Yellow Eyes with a Rare Field Ceiling, I think is the title of the album, where the lyrics, if you can look into them and you have no idea what they mean. Like the only way you can find anything about that is if you look up an interview and see specifically what they're trying to mean. So he says that, and then he says there's no tune. I'm assuming he means that the notes are hard to decipher when you hear someone screaming. Sure, I guess. But counterpoint, one, you're still mentioning heavy metal, which very clearly there's a tune. As in, if you hear Bruce Dickinson on Iron Maiden, he's hitting fantastically high notes, and he's got a decent range too, and he's singing all over. So saying there's no tune in heavy metal doesn't make any sense. But even you could have groups like Death or Slayer where they are hitting notes. It's just kind of speak singing in a way. Yeah, it is screaming, but even me talking right now, there is a pitch to how I'm speaking. There is a note. It's the level of frequency of which the air out of my mouth is coming. It is hitting a note, so that doesn't make any sense. And the most criminal thing he says here is that they don't have a beat. Now, I'm mostly going to reference death metal to this, specifically progressive death metal. So he might think it's not 4/4, which is ridiculous because plenty of interesting songs are in 4/4. In fact, I like songs more when they're not in 4/4, except for Spiderland. Everyone makes the meme that's, oh, Spiderland's all in 4/4, whatever. You can be funky and have an interesting beat without being that accessible, Chris. Basically, what I'm talking about here is you could have a blast beat in a black metal song, or a super pounding double bass drums. You could have super interesting beats or crushing beats, or just these super hard driven beats that just make you pound away. No one would headbang if there wasn't a beat, Chris. So I don't know why you say that. That's the most incomprehensible statement about music I've heard in a long, long time. But this kind of goes to show how little Chris knows actually about music, and he shows that in spades on Comeback. And how does he show that? It's because Chris tries to be progressive here. Yeah, he starts it off with a song called Clyde's Trollsta's Paradise. Now, first thing I want to notice is that this is a sample of Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio, a great song. But he says Trollsta's because it sounds, you get the point. So the rapping is terrible. The bars are literally nothing. And the singing, when he reaches it, of course, it's off again. It's really the same stuff as before, except now he sounds so unprepared that he's messing up his own words. The only thing I could say about this album that makes it even a tiny bit better than before is that Chris is slightly more audible at points. But he just drives it out by singing the wrong words. Next song, CWC Like a Virgin. Guess what? It's just Like a Virgin by Madonna. It is exactly the same words, except one time where it says boy, Chris says girl. Outstanding, Chris. He also puts way too much emphasis on the time he says girl. It's almost like he just had to sing girl that one time and then let Madonna do the rest for some reason. That's enough about that. Next song is Feel I Love It Play. It's a sample of Berlin's Take My Breath Away. So the mixing, if you could call it that, is a lot less smothered here, but you can still hear Chris. You could hear the track peaking in the background through his own mic. Yeah, there are parts where he comes in way too early. There are parts where he doesn't rhyme. It's a mess. It's a huge mess. Next track is called I Gotta Make My Move. It's a sample of Do You Think I'm Sexy by Rod Stewart. The words are pretty much the same, except one time he says dumb boy. Actually, not one time, every chorus he says it. It's incredibly choppy. I gotta say, this is Christian's best singing, I guess. It's the closest to the notes. The next song is called I'll Never Leave You, Ivy. It's a cover of Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush, which is a really pretty progressive song. If you listen to the remastered version on Spotify, it's actually a really, really good track. Most of the words that he changes here mean the exact same thing as normal. He says at one point, stroll and grace our green. Which in the original version is not the best wording already, but now it makes zero sense. It has a minute of him doing inaudible riffing because he doesn't understand that progressive music needs good instrumentals. This next track, I think, is an affront against modern society and a war crime. It's Lovin' You. It samples Minnie Riperton's Lovin' You, and it's really just a cover. The words are exactly the same, except at the end he says Ivy one time. If you like the instrumentals, congratulations, they're gone. It's a cappella. What's interesting about the a cappella version is the fact that Chris actually sounds nothing like the original track. First time I heard this version, I was seriously confused as to what the original song was, but it turns out I'd actually heard it before. Minnie Riperton's Loving You is an amazing song. It's super beautiful, and she has a scatting portion, if you can call it scatting. I don't know what else to call it, where she uses a whistle tone. It is gorgeous, and I highly recommend anyone to listen to it. Please listen. But this version is an abomination. It should be wiped from the face of the earth, never to be heard again. It's even hard to make fun of just because it feels so disrespectful. There's also an auto-tuned version of it online where it almost sounds like how the song would sound in minor. Don't even know how Chris messed it up. The next track is called Paradise by the Seashore Light, or Crass and Champ's Thang Undersea. It's a sample of Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf. The song is 7.5 minutes long. Not for Christian to do. This is against everything he's been doing. The words are pretty much the same, except sometimes he'll say crass and champ just to basically say that this is a song about hermit crabs, Ivy's hermit crabs, actually, which may or may not have even been real. When he's trying to sing a girl part, he will flip his voice to his falsetto, and it sounds better than his actual singing. So if you want the novelty factor, you can listen to that. Next track is Punchy and Layla's Dancing in the Dark. It's a sample of Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen, which is an actual good song, so I don't know why Chris is covering it. There's not much to say about it. The track is really bad. It sounds disrespectful again. Chris he's barely nigh atonal. There's a part where Chris yawns in the track, and the track ends with sort of dirty talk between Punchy and Layla, and then he says, "I'm gonna show you my best punches." It's very awkward. It's uncomfortable, a little disturbing, if you will. But that track is only available in Daily Motion, so if you want to see it, you have to go on that website, whatever. Not that you're missing anything. The last track is I'm Sexy for My Ivy. It's a sample of Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake. Oh man, this track. Chris sounds like Chris for the verses, whatever. It's nothing special. The words are bad, of course, but then you reach the chorus, or the hook, and Chris is a measure behind every time. And he never gets back on until he eventually switches. So yeah, it falls apart. Just as the album started, it ends with just collapsing. So yeah, these are 2 Cope albums. They're actually the worst albums I've ever heard, including Corey Feldman's Angelic to the Core and Philosophy of the World by the Shags, because at least they made music. Kind of why I made this video was to kind of clear up which of these is worse. And it's a hard topic to sort of like finish off easy, because you really have to pull hairs apart here to kind of determine what's worse. And I've determined that Comeback is actually a worse record because it tries to be progressive and flops even harder than originally. And I think there's an argument to be made where the first album you can kind of turn on in the background, and while it sounds terrible, maybe you can like fuzz it just a little bit, and then you get something that's kind of lo-fi, extremely lo-fi, and just kind of is a constant fuzz while you're working or something like that. Like a lo-fi beat, discount Merzbow if you just murder the tracks. But these tracks have nothing going for them. They're incredibly disrespectful. They're essentially covers. The little bit of creativity that Chris had on the first album is gone, and it's a waste of my time. But you guys might enjoy it. Whatever. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Next week we will be covering good music. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and bye.